it's not about being better, it's about being different. And how can I differentiate the opportunities that I offer, the education that I offer, the experience that I offer, and how can I connect better and find my tribe? Because I don't need to work with everybody. I just need to work with my people.
Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who's been helping families across the Dallas-Fort Worth area for more than 20 years. She's known for making the mortgage process clear, stress-free, and personal, going beyond the rate to really help people feel confident about one of life's biggest investments. She's also making history as the first female Hispanic president of the Fort Worth Mortgage Bankers Association. Sarah Cox, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you so much for having me. It is absolutely my pleasure and honor to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited about the conversation. Always great to meet people who are making history, which is amazing. And so let's just start there because, and we can work our way back and kind of go bounce around here. But you've been involved in the Mortgage Bankers Association for some time. You've moved up in the ranks, so to speak, and now you're the first female Hispanic president ever. Like, what has that organization meant to you over the years?
Yes. One of the things that I've always been really passionate about is advocacy, education, helping other people find their way, not just for homeownership, but finding their way throughout this industry. And to me, this industry is a gift. It was afforded to me by folks who gave me a chance in 2002 to get my first job in the mortgage industry. And so I feel I would be remiss to not do the same, right? Where I felt like there was not so much a burden, but a calling on myself to connect with people who look like me, sound like me. And let's face it, I'm not necessarily who someone would think of when they think of a mortgage, when they think of getting a loan officer. Like all these different terms have just different meanings, and somebody has a visual of what they see. And what I really wanted to do is help other people behind me come on up to a position like this, where, the Mortgage Bankers Association has been around in Fort Worth, has been around since 1964. And I think that that's important to note because over the last 60 some odd years, no one else has felt like they can assume this role or assume this position. No one else felt like, hey, I'm going to take a position of leadership within the MBA to help with advocacy, to help with education, to help others come alongside me and say, hey, you could do this as a job. Like this is a viable career. And so that was really important to me. The longer I got involved, the more I saw, because at first I was like, why would I want to network with other loan officers? Like that's a weird thing for me to do. Then I started to understand, oh, the MBA doesn't just talk about loan officer things like how to fill out a 1003. That's not what we are or who we are. What we are is providing a voice for the mortgage industry, because if we don't advocate for ourselves, who will? And every part of the industry is advocating for themselves. Builders, realtors, insurance. I mean, you name it, they have a lobbyist. They have someone there who's doing, help provide something towards their group. Like if they want to see something happen, that's what they're doing. Mortgage Bankers Association is doing that on a national level, on a local level, on a state level. So it just became really apparent that I needed to get more involved in. And as I did it, I just saw what an impact it made. And it truly does change people's lives when they realize, gosh, this is a great industry to be a part of. And I'm honored to be able to help others.
That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And let's go back to 2002. You mentioned someone took a chance on you, or how did you get into this crazy world of mortgage?
Yeah. So at the time I was working at for a property tax consultant. And it was funny because I remember thinking like, I love this industry, but property tax consultant, like that's so like, it wasn't really my world, And I could see the people who were protesting taxes, and I could see the companies and the individuals who were helping support that initiative. And I was just like, man, this isn't my world. These aren't my people. But it was a good job and I did it. And then one day I've always had my resume on that old website called monster.com. And I got a call from a mortgage broker and based out of Las Colinas. And shout out to First Option Mortgage. They're still around. Um, I'll never forget it because I drove out to the building the day before my interview and I just want to make sure I knew where it was and how to get there and all that. And I remember pulling into the parking lot thinking, this is different. Like this place is going to be different for me. This isn't just a job. This feels different, and I don't know if it was the beautiful building or if it was the commute. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, there felt like a distinctive difference. And, I was hired as a receptionist to take phone calls. They had, radio ads, on WBAP or whatever, and we would get phone calls, tons of traffic, through the phone. And that's what I did. I did that for 6 months. And then I became a processor after that. And then soon after is about the time that the housing market started to crash. And that was about 06, 07 that things started to shift. And I did whatever I could do within the industry to stay in it. So I did servicing, compliance, training. I was a sales assistant. I did marketing. I think the most interesting role I had was in the servicing because we were working in loss mitigation and I was working with a lot of folks who had gone through the whole foreclosure process, and so seeing that whole world, change. And then when TRID came around and all the rules, all the guidelines, everything changed, I took a role in doing that. But, I've been so grateful for every step of the way. I've been so thankful for every position I took because I felt like it helped empower me and educate me, on the process. And it really just helped me be the originator I am today.
Yeah, that's great. And something we've talked about before is you've got a very unique idea of how to act, right, as an originator, in terms of like you're very focused on experience and helping the client really feel like this elevated experience, and the concept of different versus better. And I would love it if you would just sort of share a little bit about that way of thinking and what that means to you.
Right. So, one of the things that I learned about 3 years ago, and shout out to my coaches and mentors, because I'll tell you, 3 years ago is the first time I ever found a coach. And I will tell you that changed everything for me because I had been in the industry for so long. I mean, I found a coach after being in the industry for 22 years, and no, maybe it was about 20 years at that point. All that to say, one of the things that made it the biggest difference for me was having someone in my corner who could help me point out my blind spots. It's a blind spot for a reason. You can't see it. Like they're there to point it out because they want to get you better. And when I think about the word potential and I think about the impact that that makes, what I think about is all the people in my career along the way who said to me something to the effect of, Sarah, you have so much potential, but then how do you get there? Like, how do you achieve that? How do you get to the place from point A to point B? I never had anybody in my life that could show me that until I found the coaching platform, which was Mortgage Marketing Animals and Carl White. Having their support and having them show me the way was everything. I never even heard the term KPIs. I never even heard the term leading indicators versus lagging indicators. Like all of those terms were like Greek to me, And when I first found coaching, I knew that is what I needed to lean into in order to help me truly achieve that potential and to draw out the gifts and the calling and the things that I had. I knew it was a well, but I didn't know how to tap into the well. So, kind of going back to your better versus, or the question you asked regarding, different versus better, because what I learned was that a lot of us and everyone listening probably is we're all doing the same thing, right? And we all actually might be doing it in the same market. But what makes it all different and unique is that there is enough market share for all of us, because there are people that I'll be able to impact and there's lives that I'll be able to touch that somebody else might not, and vice versa. And I think that that's what's really key, is for me to figure out it's not about being better, it's about being different. And how can I differentiate the opportunities that I offer, the education that I offer, the experience that I offer, and how can I connect better and find my tribe? Because I don't need to work with everybody. I just need to work with my people. And because at the end of the day, some will, some won't. So what? Like, move on. Like, and I have to focus on that. But so many times we get so hung up on the ones who said no, the ones who didn't take that next step to pursuing, a partnership or a mortgage or whatever with me. And I realized that whenever I could get away from that and not be so hung up on it and focused on it, I found my voice. I found what made me different, and I would move on. And it's been a hard lesson. And there are lots of, moments that I could go back to and recite and be like, oh man, I wish I had done that different. But now that I know, it isn't about always trying to be better. It's about pointing out what makes me different and why somebody would want to work with me. That made all the difference in the world for my career.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, a few things to unpack with that. One, you mentioned the word potential. That is, to me, like the word potential is a dirty word, because for me, it means like talent unrealized. When someone says, oh, you got great potential, it's like, I understand the frustration, right? Because they see the talent in you, and you're like, so what is this mystical potential that you speak of? How do I reach it? Pull it out of me. And so when you can find a leader, a coach that can get you to that next level, is so valuable. And then also, just I love that you're focused on who you can serve, and not overly focused on trying to be for everybody, because when you're for everyone, you're for no one. And it just, it's so much easier when you get laser focused on that group, right? That those people that are your people, that tribe, so to speak. So in the line of work that you have, you're helping people into homes. Is there a particular story with a borrower that still like pulls on your heartstrings today, or that resonates with you? And if so, what is that story?
Yeah, so what I've always wanted to convey to people is that all lenders and all mortgage professionals, we're not all created equal, And when you find the people who are willing to partner alongside you and come alongside your journey with you, whether you're a loan officer, agent, buyer, whoever you are, but if you can find somebody who's willing to partner with you, that's where the magic happens, because it truly is a partnership. No one is subservient in this relationship. The client, the agent, the insurance, whoever, we all have to work together. It is like a concert. It's like a symphony. And when you can find the people who genuinely care as much as you do, that's where the magic happens. And so I got to shout out my team, because I have an amazing team of ladies who work alongside me, and they're all just as passionate as I am about homeownership, and they're committed to helping our clients cross the finish line. And I have multiple stories of clients who've come to me that have said, hey, so and so told me I didn't qualify. I gave my earnest money at the last minute. They said I didn't qualify for the mortgage, and I don't think I can ever own a home, And for me, my heart is also the Hispanic community, because I am Hispanic. My family comes from Mexico. My dad's originally from Mexico City. My mom's family is from Mexico. My grandfather on my mom's side was actually an orphan in Guadalajara, Mexico. He grew up on the streets of Mexico, just knowing that there would be a future somewhere for him in the United States. And what's amazing is his story of himself teaching himself how to read, how to write. A family took him in, and they let him use their library and their books and whatever they could afford, him, but still definitely not, part of the family. He was still a bit of a kind of like a house staff, or, they're in their home, but they let him use their resources. And seeing the journey that my grandfather took, I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she was telling me how he taught himself how to read, how to write, and he began doing public speaking, and he began helping politicians with their speeches. And it was just amazing to see. And my mom said, he was so disappointed because when he got to the United States, he thought, he immigrated to Arizona, and he thought he was going to have a position. He thought there would be people there who could help him, and they promised him that they would give him opportunities, and they never did. And I said, "You know what, Mom? I hear what you're saying." This was like 2 weeks ago. And I said, "Mom, I hear what you're saying, but you know what? In a lot of ways, the seeds that Grandpa sowed, we are the harvest." Like, seeing what my eldest sister, she is an associate dean of the College of Medicine at the University of Arizona. She is the first associate dean without an MD to get that position. My brother owns an auto repair shop in Southwest Fort Worth, and my sister's an amazing stay-at-home mom, but does side work as a vet technician, and she's self-trained for the last 30 years over in Colleyville. And what I love so much about our story is that what my grandfather did at the very beginning. I mean, this goes back 2 generations, right? We're seeing the harvest of that now. And I see that for my clients. I see so many of my clients who have very similar stories of immigrants, of families who have no education, people who don't even know where to begin with homeownership. And for me to be able to say, let me show you how. Let me hold you by your hand and show you. It is not a super secret, serious recipe that only we hold on to over here on the mortgage side. No, it's achievable and it's attainable. There's so many families. I believe we calculated, and it's over 2,500 families that I've helped in my career. And that is so humbling to just know that so many families would never have the joy or experience home ownership or the legacy for them to leave behind to their families. So it means a lot to me. I mean, like I said, I could tell stories upon stories, but it really happens with that one phone call with a person who has hope. And it starts with hope, and that hope usually comes from a real estate agent, a partner. Most of the relationships that I build with clients come from realtors. The relationships that I get to establish isn't directly on, out in the streets or doing events. It's really comes from my realtor partners. So again, shout out to them too, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Well, that's an amazing story about your grandfather. Like, I'm speechless. So that's wild. I love that. But let's talk about the agents, and the other side of that business. So you're helping the borrower into the home, but on the other side of that, involved in that transaction or that experience is the agent that's taking them to homes and opening up doors and helping them through all of that. Like, when you think of how you work with your referral partners, what are some of the things that you feel really help you stand out?
So the relationships that I have with my realtors, first of all, is it's a positive relationship. And I say positive because I think a lot of times there is some negative thought processes and some negativity surrounding the dynamic between the realtor loan officer. And that's why I was saying earlier too that it is a partnership. It isn't I am better than you, or you wouldn't have this job if it wasn't for me. It's none of that. And but it starts first in your thoughts, because you win or lose first in your head, right? And that was something that I had to really be conscientious of, and with who I would spend my time with and who I would really choose to be a part of. And there were companies that I felt like they didn't have that priority. The realtor relationship didn't, have a high place of value. They prioritized JV, they prioritized an MSA, like they prioritized other things over the realtor relationship. And so I had to find a company that I felt like aligned with my view and with my priorities. Obviously refinances are part of the industry. I get that, but that has never been my book of business where I'm just calling on refis or my previous clients or whatever. Like it's always been purchase business. Finding the real estate partners that I am partnered with, I would say I have probably a list of maybe 10 to 15 that I could name right now, that we're friends, that we are connected well, that we have that we have each other's back, that we know, hey, these are, I was talking to one of my agent partners today, and he's so funny because he goes, Sarah, I know you have a lot of agents that you work with, but you are the only lender that I work with. And that loyalty and that commitment is just gold, and I am just so thankful because he understands, and the agents that I do, like the 10 to 15 that I'm really tightly knit with, they understand what it is that I bring to the group. They understand the education, the communication, the follow-up, the closing on time. They understand that that is what we bring as a team, but we also bring the empathy. We also bring the, hey, let's come alongside you and figure this out. I had a client with one of my really close partners. We're actually friends. We've known each other for over 25 years. And he, had this client who said, I'm going to go with, the in house lender at a builder. And I said, absolutely. I totally get it. They're throwing you the kitchen sink. I mean, they're giving you everything. I get it. And I said, but let me just let you know something. If there comes an opportunity that they are unable to facilitate this transaction for you because your work history is a little crazy, things are a little nuts, like it is not as straightforward as they might present it to be for you to get approved with them. We might have made it seem really easy for you, but there were a lot of different nuances to your loan that we needed to sort out ahead of time before we gave you that pre-approval letter. Now that we gave you the pre-approval letter, it is not carte blanche. Like you may not be able to move forward. So I just want to say this to you so that you can keep the door, let you know the door is open. Like we have not shut the door. Just because you're having this conversation with me today does not mean that you cannot come back. And if something does go south, in the unfortunate event that something goes wrong, feel free to call me. He is closing in 2 weeks with us. So those are the types of relationships we have where I didn't want anyone to feel like I told you so. I just wanted them to know the door is open. We're here. No hard feelings. Just know if things don't go well, we're here. And I think that's important in any relationship, right? We always want to know that we have somebody in our crew to be there for us to pick up the pieces if things just don't turn out the way we expect it to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just telling someone that gives them so much security because, yeah, there may be situations that fall apart or something goes wrong, and you might want to reach out to that person, but feel like you can't because they never sort of let you know the door was still open. So I think it's important to do that. Now, one final thing that I want to cover before we sort of wrap up, because we were talking about this in like the pre-recording of this concept of the 714 rule, because I think trust is such a important piece of the lending experience, and building trust is difficult to do in a very noisy market, and you kind of want to build trust in advance, right? Like so that people to attract those clients. Help us understand more about this 714 rule because I thought it was a really interesting concept.
Yeah. So one of my coaches had actually introduced me to Daniel Priestley, and he's an author called of a book called Oversubscribed. And one of the things that he talked about is that it takes, really truly does, for us to have this, celebrity status or authority on whatever the subject matter expert is. In order for us to achieve that, it truly does take about 7 hours of content on 11 different touch points. So 11 different platforms, if you will. And one of the other pieces too is, so it's 7-11-4
11.
actually.
Okay.
So 7 hours, 11 interactions, and then 4 different platforms and locations that you're going to connect with somebody. And it really is to become that parasocial familiarity, like that, to have that, like I am an expert in finance, management, or in mortgage lending, obviously, or real estate. But what happens is that our brain is wired in a way that when I see you in different interactions, like sometimes, Connor, we were talking about it, and you were at, Sales Mastery a couple weeks ago. But if I only see you and your face on LinkedIn in a photo, and I don't see you as a video very often, then I may not recognize you out in the wild. I may not see you. I might know you're there, but I may not see you. And I think that that's the problem with what we do on a day-to-day basis, is that we assume that of course you would know me. Of course I'm the person that you would call. Of course, of course. And it's like, no, we need to realize that people need to see us in different formats. People need to hear from us in different, like those 11 different interactions, those different touch points. So it could be text, phone call, video, social media platforms, whatever the medium is, or in person, but it really does make a difference on us having that connection with somebody, because like we were saying earlier, people go to our social media platforms for validity. They do that because, I mean, how many times do we make a purchase on Amazon or whoever because of somebody else's review? It's like these are perfect strangers, people we don't know at all. Like, I can recommend to you, you should really go check out this restaurant, but you might go to Yelp and double check
Yeah,
reviews,
I need
right?
at least 55-star reviews. All right, or it doesn't pass the test. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So I think that there's a lot of truth. And there, again, the book is called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley, and it's a brilliant book. I mean, I've heard more concepts from him than I ever heard in my career about marketing, and I'm definitely increasing my marketing strategy and definitely putting more emphasis on that, because I just don't think that when I hear that Coca-Cola spends about $4 billion a year on marketing, like, huh, okay, one of the most recognized brands in the world, in the history of ever, but 4 billion a year, that's madness to even comprehend. But who am I, right? To like think that I can just skirt by a little social media post here or there. So yeah, I'm definitely working on focusing that this next year.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you feel like you should share with anyone who's listening? Just a piece of advice or anything that you feel might be helpful, for 2026 and beyond?
Well, one thing that I think, I'm definitely going to lean into a lot more this year is looking into AI and how I can leverage it to help build my business. I started using an amazing device, and it's actually on the back of my cell phone. I'll hold it up here, and it's called Plaud, Plaud. And this device right here, I mean, it's like a little credit card. It really just sits on the back of my phone. And what I love so much about it is that it helps me manage my day by taking notes every day. It's just taking notes for my phone calls. I mean, pieces of device, like little pieces of technology like this device is key for helping me fulfill my purpose and fulfill my goal. So I don't get overly wrapped up in how can I get more technology? How can I implement this and this and this? It's okay, what is my goal? My goal is to provide education, and my goal is to provide information for homeownership, sustainable homeownership. What does sustainable homeownership mean? It means clearly understanding your mortgage process and what the steps are to take for homeownership. How can I better fulfill that goal and that mission? Sending a recap email. Like, how simple is that? Like, at the end of this conversation, it's okay that you didn't take notes. I understand it's a lot of information I'm going to be giving you. So, do me a favor and just listen, and I will send you a fully detailed email right here. Plaud's got me taken care of. And so I didn't know about this until about 2 months ago, maybe. And it's changed everything. I mean, my clients go back to the emails. My agent partners are like, oh my gosh, Sarah, thank you so much for sending that. It has changed everything about the way I do things. So that's one piece of, technology I'm implementing, but there are so many other ways that we can utilize AI. I don't believe AI is coming over to take over my job, not in any way, shape, or form. I just believe that I need to not be afraid of it, embrace it, just the way we did with the internet all those years ago. and understand that it's there to be a tool and for me to find the right ones, to better complement my business. And so I think AI, leaning into that this next year and into the years to come is really where I'll be focusing right now.
Well, that's couldn't agree more. I think there's so many things that we haven't even tapped into yet with it that, just keep asking questions, just keep going down the rabbit hole, and then suddenly it blows wide open. So, anyway, Sarah, I want to thank you for joining the lowdown and being a part of this. It was great hearing your story and just all the insights and perspectives that you shared. And so, just thank you for joining. High five to you.
Bye bye.
Best of luck to you now and into the future.
Thank you again. And likewise. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this amazing community. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.